Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our fourth season, we're looking at Kenneth Branagh's 2011 film, Thor. I'm Matthew Fox from the Star Wars Universe podcast.
And I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And today we're talking about minute 63, which begins with Coulson interrogating Thor the mercenary and ends with Loki telling Thor that Odin's death is all his fault. And joining us on the show today are the Lando Calrissians to my Han Solo, the people who originally had the, although I did not win this podcast in the game of Sabak, I'm not quite as charming, but we have Kyle Olson and Rob Kubasko, the hosts of Season 2 and Season 3 of the Marvel Movie Minute. Gentlemen, what first got you into this whole, movie-by-minute idea?
Oh, desperation. It was total. I mean, yeah.
It was happy circumstances. Rob and I were doing a Doctor Who podcast at the time, Time for 13, which is still available on the Next Reel family of podcasts. And when they were having scheduling problems, we had hit the point where we ran out of Doctor Who episodes, and so I sort of talked to Andy, and I said, hey, we're not really doing anything right now. If you're looking for somebody to do Hulk, I got a thing. And I contacted Rob and said, would you be interested in doing 150 episodes talking about Ed Norton's Incredible Hulk? And he said, absolutely.
Yeah, no pause, no thinking involved.
No pause. No,
I went right for it.
Immediately said yes. Little did he know.
It's fun. It's incredible fun. We had a unique take on it, but I think it is just wonderful. I always say this. These podcasts are a celebration of movie making, because to go to this level of detail and talk about, who was the person who played this part, or how this effect was done, or the backstory of this, or just even the thinking when we go off on our little tangents, it really is a celebration of the creative process. And so, yay, joy to the art of filmmaking.
Definitely. Well, you're going to hear a lot of discussion about the art of filmmaking in Thor right after this quick break.
Have you heard of Patreon? Well, like so many podcasters out there, we are fans of that site. We find it to be a great platform for our fans to support us by becoming patrons. Well, we have now upgraded our site to Patreon's Memberful platform, which allows us to build our patron support platform right into our own site. So if you've been thinking of becoming a patron to show your love to the show, but you weren't sure because you just couldn't find us on Patreon, just know we are in fact using their platform. Head over to memberful.com if you want to learn more about all of that. But if you want to join us, go to truestory.fm/Marvel Movie Minute, and you can click on the membership link. It's only $5 a month, or you get a discount if you join at the annual rate. Thanks for your support. All right, so we're coming back in the middle of this conversation between Thor and, well, it's not really a conversation. It's a very one-sided conversation. Coulson is having his line of inquiry with Thor, not getting anywhere with it. Thor just will not look at Coulson. He's angry, dejected, confused. What do you think? Mentally in retreat? Is he just resigned? Where is he in his headspace right now? Is he trying to figure out the puzzle that his father left him? Where do you all think he is?
Or is he trying to solve the riddle of his heart?
Dude, you just won the minute. No, and here's the thing. It really is. You get that answer because what happens? He's not looking at him. And where does he raise his eyes? To the question of who are you? Because he doesn't know.
Clearly, Coulson is a Vorlon. Kyle is one of 10 people in the universe who get that joke.
Who are you?
And interestingly, in the script, Thor actually does reply to him. He says, just a man, which is interesting, but I'm glad that they just decided to leave it silent here, because I feel like there's so much more power in the way that he just kind of, and he looks at Coulson there, but it's an interesting look of anger, refusal. It's almost like he's saying, this conversation is over. I'm not going to give you anything. I don't know. I find it so interesting the way that he kind of, there's so much being said in his non-talking in this moment, and that look, I find it's just, I don't know. I think it's great in this moment here.
I think it's a fantastic moment. I don't think, though, he's having a specific reaction to Coulson I thought of this scene as kind of a throwback to when Thor has just arrived on Earth. He's been hit by a car. People are shouting at him. And he's completely ignoring them because he's only focused on what's happening on Asgard and Heimdall and Odin. And so to me, what I kind of got out of this was he's still just taking all this in, and he's just kind of like zombie walking through the situation and not really paying any attention. And it's only when Coulson says, like, who are you, that it kind of clicks back for him, in part because he doesn't know anymore. The answer has always been, who are you? I am the worthy one. I am the one who carries Mjolnir. I am the one who will become king. He doesn't have that answer anymore. And I think that's kind of the heart and soul of why he's so broken right now.
Well, and I think...
And he thinks he's hit rock bottom. But
well, he hasn't. and I think his expression, I see it's shame in those eyes. Because that expression is the expression that I think anyone who has spawns knows. When you have a young child and that child is misbehaved, and they know they messed up, and you look them in the eyes and say, you have really disappointed us, or a variation thereof, that's the face you get. Because it is a face of, wow, you got to my heart. You've asked me a question. Who am I? I don't know the answer to it, and I don't even want to even talk about the answer because I'm ashamed of it. And that's where you really see I think the acting is brilliant in this, because again, thank God he didn't have an answer, because the answer would have ruined it.
Oh, yeah.
That's perfect.
No, totally. Yeah. I mean, this, honestly, the strength of Hemsworth's performance through this whole thing, from the moment, from the start of our minutes together, when he is taken away and his face is in tears and he's got the rain pouring down. Like, I mean, it's just, it's great. And he's really carrying this moment here. And for an actor who is given such a joyful, robust performance of just intense enthusiasm and just a joie de vivre, who just is like, so charismatic. Like, this is such a different Thor that we're seeing here. And it really hurts. And I think that's why it works so well. And I find that to be so powerful.
Yeah, I did a show called Road to Infinity where we watched one Marvel movie a week in anticipation of Infinity War. So it was like leading up to it. So we spent basically what you're spending, 120 some minutes. We spent an hour. But what we found interesting when we were doing that is how green Chris Hemsworth is. Like, of all the people who sort of step into these major roles, Robert Downey Jr. had an amazing resume before he started. Even Chris Evans had a pretty decent thing. Chris Hemsworth comes in pretty green, and I would say he is one of the people who really you see develop on screen. And like, because and stuff, you like, other people have done this role? Yeah, maybe. But then by the time you get to Ragnarok and stuff too, you're like, oh man, like no one else could play Thor. But you see in this scene, the beginning, like you can see, there's a lot more to this guy. Like, he's not just a big, handsome Australian dude. Like, there's a lot more depth going on, and you really get to see like just a glimmer of sort of the amazing talent he's going to become.
I think that's such a good way of putting it, because as I think about it, I think that, I don't really know how to answer the question. When the question is, what is Thor feeling in this moment? And I think that's kind of the point, because honestly, if a character went through this, like, life-shattering, horrid, everything I thought I know is wrong realization, and then 5 minutes later I could look at the character and know exactly what they were thinking, I think that's pretty bad acting and pretty bad directing. So to me, the fact that he's kind of conveying all of these different things, and we don't know what's going on in his head because he doesn't know what's going on in his head, is, to me, I think, a real credit to probably Branagh's direction, but also very much Hemsworth's acting.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, in the script, when Coulson is giving him this line of inquiry, one of the things he says is certain groups pay well for a good mercenary. And then he follows it up with this, especially Hydra.
Oh,
I think that's really interesting that was scripted and cut.
Yeah.
Do any of you have any ideas as to why they would cut that? I mean, I have a theory, but
I think maybe because they had started to have the plan of what they were going to do. I mean, it would still be a number of years away, but at this point, Hydra's dead. But so I guess they didn't want to have it that they're still out there, as another threat. It's not Spectre.
They weren't ready. They weren't ready for it.
My sense was also they had already shot Captain America. That was coming out, right on the heels of this, and I felt like maybe we should just leave Hydra, like the whole introduction of the idea and everything of Hydra, to that movie, and then we can build it from there, but let's not bring it in yet. And that was kind of my sense, which, I think is smart because, yeah, like you're saying, Rob, I don't think they were ready. Let's bring it in the context where it makes the most sense, and then we'll figure out what to do with it. Okay, and so now we get this moment where Coulson gets a text, and I've got to say, he is the coolest at pulling his phone out of his pocket and checking the text. That is the coolest little move he does.
Oh, you think it was a phone? Okay. I kind of thought it was a beeper, like it was a shield beeper, because it's so small.
It could be a beeper or phone, whatever it is. But the way that he just kind of cups it in his hand.
Robbie didn't figure out what model of beeper that was?
Well, it's either the PageNet 4700. No, I have no idea. No, but I think it is a pager because he doesn't flip or anything. You know what I mean? Like, no, it is. Yeah. I think it's a pager.
Well, it's a great little like hand movement that he does, the way that he pulls it out.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's very smooth.
Yeah, I think, I wouldn't be surprised if he had nothing.
Yeah, right.
They just went like, oh, let's do a little thing. And then Clark Gregg is so good, he makes you think he's actually carrying Loki's technology because you never see it. You never see the edge of it or the screen or anything. He just has this very smooth motion of like.
Well, there is actually there is a tiny from the Dutch angle high scene. There is a reflection on something in his hand. So I mean, which even takes me even more to think that it's a pager with a screen that's just reflecting some light.
Yeah, maybe. It looks like a small phone screen. So I don't know. When I see it, it looks like maybe an early iPhone or something, but I don't know.
They are small.
It's very
That's
hard
true,
to tell.
actually. So yeah.
It's an iPod.
But regardless, it's slick, the way that he does it all. It's incredibly slick. Well, okay, so someone calls Coulson. I guess it must be somebody important because I assume that it's not just anybody who's going to beep him or call him whatever, text him, and call him out of an interrogation like this. So do you think that it's fury? Do you have any sense? Or do you think that it's just a pure script purpose to get him out of the room?
I actually had the sense, I mean, forgive me for spoiling what happens 15 seconds later in the same minute, but I had the sense that it was something Loki arranged, that it was some kind of like, maybe it's Loki's voice, doing fury or something, or it's, Loki just like arranging for someone else to call him at this exact time, or that the timing of it is so perfect that I thought it was some kind of Loki shenanigans.
I would agree with that.
What's interesting about that is, and it was in the script. It didn't make it into the final cut, so it's entirely possible that it's not a canon. But in the script, when the door shuts, Loki says, "I thought he'd never leave," which makes me think that it's not Loki doing that. But again, that's not canon.
I assumed he just got an email that said he got the winning bid on the Captain America trading card set that he had been set up on eBay.
I mean, has he canonically met the cellist by this point?
Oh, interesting.
Maybe it could be like this is his notification of a great cello concert happening in the Pacific Northwest that he should check out sometime. So, who knows?
Interesting. Okay, so
what if the cellist was Loki all the time?
Poor Amy Acker.
So whoever it was, Coulson is called out of the room, and as he goes through, he goes up to the sliding glass door. It's he's in this mirrored room. You can only see inside, but he slides it open, and we get a brief glimpse of some paperwork hanging on the wall outside there. Rob, did you want to tell us a little bit about that paperwork?
I just want to say this. Amen to the assistant graphic designer on set that day, because here's how this conversation went. Hey, we need papers on the thing and stuff on the wall right there. It's going to be in the shot? Yeah, it's going to be in the shot. Focus? Yeah, maybe and stuff. What should it be? Graph, something technical. What do you think we should make it? Let's make it farts. Because it's methane. It's, 7%. And I did do the research on this. 7% of human parts are methane. I'm sorry, Matthew. I had to. I couldn't let that pass. It is the chemicals CH4, and in case you're wondering, ppBV is parts per billion by volume. It's a lot of gas, everybody. Unless the crater, I don't know. How do you explain that? Was methane a big deal?
Dead cows.
Is that it?
When it came down, it was in a cow field, and so it just...
I love the idea that they wanted to get a fart joke into the movie. It's entirely possible that that's the only reason it's here. When I was looking, I'm like, methane is a gas that is on planets where there's life. And astronomers have found a lot of methane on Mars and Titan, both of which they think they have life. And so I was like, maybe it is something that they've been looking into because they've found larger amounts of methane in this particular area. Is it because of Mjolnir? Is it because of the Bifrost and the space travel and stuff? Like, I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense. I kind of like thinking that now that it is just nothing more than a fart joke.
I really hope it is.
I'm going to find a way to synthesize these all together. Because Rob, I love like you bringing up the super detail, because I've had a number of friends from when I went to school who were, very into sciences or whatever, and then wound up with huge amount of student debt, doing ridiculous jobs that had nothing to do with what they studied. And we're always kind of like looking for some ways to like remind people like, hey, I know all of this useless knowledge. So I think that, as you said, some assistant to an assistant to an assistant was just told, do whatever you want. And the person was like, yes, my moment. All of that money I spent at New Mexico State learning chemistry, and I happen to learn the chemistry of farts or whatever it is, and it's relevant to alien worlds, I'm going to throw it in right here. So whoever you are, you're probably still paying off your student debt. I hope that gets taken care of soon for you, but I'm glad you got to have this moment of telling us the parts per billion of volume of methane that's happening in this moment.
Outstanding.
Here.
We salute you, you unsung hero.
That's
and
right.
that is how I got through many years of high school without ever doing the homework, but still getting called on by teachers.
All right. So, the big thing that happens here is as the door closes, Loki is standing
That's
there.
such a cool,
we see Loki in the reflection. It's a great,
so effective.
simple. Yeah, it's a simple shot to make us feel like he just appeared. Just great camera trickery. Very easy, just kind of having him step in, but it works exceptionally. So now Thor sees that Loki's here. My first question is, now granted, Thor doesn't say a lot here, but what do we think the people on the other side of the glass are seeing right now? Are they seeing somebody like, is Loki look like Coulson here? Is he invisible to them and they just see Thor sitting here by himself, talking to himself?
Invisible, yes.
Yeah, that's my thing. I think my headcanon has always been that his illusion casting also then can create like basically, a thing around him that he turns him invisible. And so I think he's just invisible here. Now, are they watching Thor talking to no one? That's always a good question too. Like, I'm like, so the guy we captured, turns out he's crazy because he's talking to no one.
Yeah.
Well, especially because in the next minute, not to spoil again, but like we do get a scene of Loki doing something right in the middle of everything where there's numerous cameras on him that no one reacts to. So I think not in this scene necessarily, but in just a minute, we learn that, yeah, absolutely what he's doing is visible only to Thor.
But also, why did he dress up then? Just
exactly.
Because he's Loki.
That was my other question.
He's dressed in this amazingly well-tailored suit, and he's got a nice scarf and everything too, and yet no one can see him except for Thor. Why is he dressed in, basically human clothes at all? Why is he not in Asgardian armor?
I mean, when it's your picture in the dictionary under extra, like...
Exactly. Just for the appeal. Hey, well, going to Earth, I might as well get dressed up.
Is this the first time he's shown up in the movie with this outfit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is it. This is the first time he's been in anything other than the one outfit we've seen him in.
Well, that we know, but turns out that after the show, it turns out he has been on Earth many times in the past.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right.
But Loki television series has shown us that he has been here. This is not his first time visiting Midgard.
Well, and theoretically, Thor's been here before. I mean, he recognizes, in the script when he's on the ground, he's like, blue sky, one sun. This is Midgard. And I mean, people theoretically have all these myths about him, and he's come here and had plenty of drinks and songs and women. And so I mean, they've both theoretically have been here before. So yeah, I don't know. What were you going to say about that, Rob?
Oh, that the scarf is the one prop that he stole.
Oh,
really?
That he's been seen. Yeah, that he has the scarf. Like, he actually has the scarf. He's been taken. Pictures have been taken of him out and about with this scarf. So I think that's kind of a neat little piece there.
And it also could be that maybe he had some other business to take care of. Like, he's like going to see a show. Maybe he's going to. Was the ring cycle being performed somewhere?
He looks like He's got to get there from Puente Antiguo, so we'll see. Okay, so he's got this like little conversation that he's having here, and this whole thing. I mean, it's a dark conversation that he has, and it's fairly interesting, this whole thing like, Loki, what are you doing here? I had to see you. What's happened? Tell me, is it Jotunheim? Let me explain to Father. Father is dead. What? Your banishment, the threat of a new war. It was too much. This is why Loki came. I mean, where are we with our headcanon with Thor or with Loki right now, as far as like, what are his machinations right now? Any thoughts on what, he's got the power now. Is this like his final thing he needs to do to kind of completely shut the door on Thor and get his final revenge?
I think so. I think it's torturing Thor. Like, it's basically, he's like, hey, I saw you fell. I'm going to kick you while you're down. I mean,
yeah.
And also because Thor is the major threat and is the one who's foiled all Loki's plans. This is a way of like, I don't have to defeat you physically, or send you to fight frost trolls or whatever. I can just destroy you. I can just crush your soul right here, and you'll just be a sad old man on Earth now, and I'll be up on the throne. This will be great.
You're dead. Stay dead.
Yeah,
that's what this is.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of that, especially both he's definitely getting a lot of enjoyment out of this, but I do think this is also a very strategic move for him. That this is what. Like, he probably knows that Thor has been trying to get his hammer, trying to get it back. And Loki might know that it's possible for Thor to do it. And this is his way of being like, you have to stop trying. You have to. And to me, I think one of the great things that a movie like this can capture, and that the Loki character captures, is that, the best lies have some truth mixed in. And the best time of faking an emotion is when there's some truth to it. And we know that Odin isn't dead. We know that Frigga did not forbid Thor from coming back, but we do know that Odin was sent into this emotional, kind of coma in large part because of all the stuff that happened to Thor, in part because of the stuff that happened to Loki as well, and that their mother, Frigga, is very upset about all of this. And so in some ways, I feel like this is kind of like Loki does actually blame Thor for what's happening. He also this way can ignore his own part that he had to play in what happened to his father. And so, I think he's definitely this is his heel turn. This is, I've talked a couple weeks ago about how I used to think that Loki was a villain throughout. I now believe that Loki only really makes a full heel turn halfway through the movie. But this is definitely this is where he is, like, I do still think he thinks he's best for Asgard, but also he wants this power. He finally is going to get it. And the last thing he wants is Thor coming back and taking the spotlight again. And so he is, to me, it proves what a brilliant manipulator he is, because the thing I think that more than anything is that your mother has forbidden it.
Mm-hmm. That's the next minute. So stop talking about that.
Shut up. Never mind. I'm getting really bad about that. I apologize. But even just the father is dead, it's all of that. It's just that there's a lot of truth there, and then Loki mixing that in with a lot of just incredibly painful lies.
That one may smile and be a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's I feel like we're kind of at the end of this minute anyway. So let's wrap this up, because we've got a lot more, as obviously Matthew's ready to just jump into the next minute. So let's call it quits for this minute. We'll come back and we'll finish this conversation, because it's a whole minute of Loki pretty much monologuing to Thor in this next minute. So we're going to put a pin in that and come back tomorrow, and we'll finish it then.
Sounds good. Well, Cal and Rob, thank you as always so much for being a part of this. Is there anything that people know, that we haven't got a chance to talk about that either of you are doing right now that fans could check out in terms of like social media presence you have, or, places we can send carrier pigeons, or ways we can annoy you when you're out in public? Like, what do we got?
Social what? I do have an occasionally updated podcast called The Curiosity Codex that Rob will sometimes show up on. It is not put out as often as I would like to be, but it's still up there. So check that out if you're looking for some content, especially if you're a Star Trek fan. I did like 5 episodes about Star Trek.
Nice.
Wonderful show. I was very honored to be a guest on. And we do have other projects that are in pre-production. So just by the time you listen to this, maybe there will be things that you will be able to find us on. So stay tuned.
Ooh.
Big in 22.
Secrets. Big. I like it. Breaking news right here. All right. Well, to both of you, thank you so much. Andy, as always, thank you so much for taking care of all this to make this show happen. And to the fans, thank you all. Have a great day.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is One Last Ride by Martin Puringer. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.